The Delinquent manga binge continues for me, and this time I read Crows. I heard it's one of the OGs per se of this subgenre. It was only 95 chapters, so I went ahead and checked it out. And this honestly became one of the most fun reads I've ever read. And how much was done in these 95 chapters was honestly amazing. And then to hear it had sequels that take place in the same universe is fire. And I went ahead and read both of those. And I can honestly say all three of these manga hit. Now, in order to explain what Crows is, basically you have to start with the main character, Boya Michi, who's a transfer student to this school called Suzerain. Suzerain is literally an all-boys delinquent school. No one actually cares about this school that much in terms of the building, how it looks and all that. Everyone here is just trying to throw hands and kind of just survive until they can find out how they can make some money later on in their life. Especially Boya. Boya is a traditional delinquent character, especially since this came out in the 90s. Blonde hair, very boisterous, strong as hell, and hilarious. And very quickly, Boya is recognized as the strongest in Suzerain and unifies Suzerain, but not intentionally, because there is a clear top dog that everyone respects out there, and this sets off a chain of events across other schools as well. They get wind of Suzerain's new top dog and they want to fight and everything. There's alliances, there's beefs, there's all of that. But I don't want to spoil the specifics, obviously not too much, but the schools in this story, as well as the factions that take part in this manga, are so well done. The lore behind some school rivalries become interesting. Each school's hierarchy is different than others, but all correspond with strength, and each school defines strength a little different from the other. Except one of the major factions in this is actually a biker gang that had its own history of head bosses, and they conflict with the other schools because this biker gang is very young. And I gotta say, this story does a fantastic job of transitioning from one story arc to the next, one character arc or storyline to another, and building up characters as well as events to come pretty much seamlessly. You could have two different storylines happen at the same time and then introduce the third side plot that actually helps finish or make the other two storylines better. It's so good, and if you read it or you have read it, you know what I mean. And to get into slight spoilers for the rest of the video, the characters are the shining light on this series because there's so many cool characters, and I'll say the standout four are indeed the four kings. Basically the name of the four strongest delinquents of that generation. Boya, the MC, Osamu, but his nickname is Bulldog. He's a natural leader, easy character to root for, and same for Kuratani as well. And Ryushin and B2, who are the big badasses that you just don't want to mess with in a fight, all from different schools, and they all have history with each other, and the storylines are intertwined between these schools, and these four throughout the series is entertaining as hell. And the introduction of the first years was fantastic. Standout is by far King Joe. He's a straight menace. Series that came out so long ago, I feel like this honestly still aged really well. The character designs as well is pretty interesting considering. I will say the mangaka for Crows doesn't have, in my opinion, the strongest arsenal of making characters kind of stand out in terms of design, because over time you can kind of see certain characters start to look the same, but for the most part it's really good and honestly really easy to read because the dialogue flies by. Also, brotherhood is a big topic in this, so if you don't think about that, that's going to run really deep in this series considering there's a lot of groups and alliances and whatnot. Also, I gotta say, top 5 characters, no order right now: Boya, Kirishima, Bulldog, Bizu, and King Joe. On to the sequel worst. The main character is Hana Tsukishima, country boy who comes to Suzerain, but this time his main goal is to bring Suzerain together. Pretty much very simple, but all around a little different. And the overall story of this, I will say, from a traditional standpoint of storytelling, is pretty much better. Especially the main antagonist, Amachi. Him and Hana's dynamic is pretty badass, as it's kind of the antagonist or villain, however you want to perceive him, that's chasing the main character, yet they're both on the come up. And I think Amachi as a character overall is the most intriguing read in the entire sequel series, although I think Hanaki Guriko easily outshines the entire cast because he plays the anti-hero neutral really well, as he's the one that everyone is kind of aiming for, but at the same time they fear him. He's one of my favorites between all three of the main series. It's a plus that they also reference things from Crows, and honestly the overall just execution of this series is very much different from Crows. Even though it is a longer series, I want to say it's 132 chapters, it honestly still goes by pretty quick. Plus the action gets much more fluent and easier to read in this one as well. Now for the third one, we have Crows 2. This one is a prequel to the entire thing, both Crows and worse. This prequel is one of the best short 50 chapter stories you'll find in manga, in my opinion. Not only are the main protagonists and antagonists, Genji and Narumi, well written and built up, but the character that surrounds them are written to the right extent of completing their roles. In this story, Housing by far is at its best, as it shows how Housing's one leader and everyone follows hierarchy system started and the tradition that carries from it. And Genji, as the protagonist in this version, is the leader who isn't fully acknowledged by his people yet. Also, this is like the ultimate delinquent manga in terms of the mangaka that created this, because Hiroshi Takahashi, who's like the godfather of delinquent manga at this point, writes the Crows series, including this prequel, while Tetsuhiro Hirakawa did the art. And it's the perfect combination because the fights look amazing and each character's design has so much style to them. Housing's school uniform looks like the coolest school uniform you'd ever see because of that. It's even got a movie, so you can find it, you can check that out as well. If you're interested in getting into the delinquent manga and you want to start off just from, I guess, the literal start, I would say the best way to start is with these 3 series. They are easy to read, pretty quick, and have some great characters and stories that you're gonna have fun reading. So I hope you enjoyed that video. Leave a like and comment and subscribe if you're interested in this channel. I'll see y'all in the next one. Peace.